it was received by the audience. 800 people couldn't stop laughing. And I thought, oh, my God, I have a comedy hit. And for the first time in my life, a comedy set piece actually worked, and the audience couldn't stop laughing. The second that scene was over and the actual movie began, there were about 4 laughs in the next 2 hours, and that was it. And I think what killed the comedy was the amount of destruction and the sheer noise level, that many people were watching the film with their hands over their ears, holding their ears because they were being assaulted by all the noise coming out of the speakers. And I think it's not that we dubbed it too loud. I just blew too much stuff up. Pauline Kael's, she had a radio show. Off the air, she said to me, now you have, I hear 1941 coming out. She said, well, we're all waiting for that one. You know you're not going to get off as easy as you get off with your first 2 films. We're waiting for you to fail. And in so many words, she pretty much just said to me, you know, we've got our knives sharpened because this better be the greatest thing anybody's ever made or you're going to go down in flames. And I'll never forget her warning, almost like sight unseen, whether it's a good picture or a bad picture, it's your turn to be slapped. I was kind of riding the whirlwind. And when I did 1941, I have to tell you, I felt like I was made of Teflon. I felt that anything I put on film was going to succeed. I felt invincible. And I think, in a sense, at that point in my life, the best thing that could have happened to me was the drubbing that 1941 got.
I am from beyond. Listen, and all you desire will be yours. Welcome to Spider-Dan and the Secret Balls. Prepare for Prattle.
We're going the wrong way.
Oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going?
Yeah, how would he know? Thank you. Thanks a lot. Terrific.
Thank you.
What a moron.
You're going in the wrong direction!
Welcome to Prattle World. I am your host, the ever-amazing, ever-spectacular Spider Dan. And in this podcast, I spotlight entertainment's best-kept secrets that a mainstream audience may find boring. And welcome to the very first Wrong Direction, where we look at a popular director's less successful work and try to determine what led them down that road. And we are going to start with a big one, with a big name director, the biggest name director. It's a household name. And we're going to talk about not a household name film. We're going to talk about 1941, Spielberg's first World War II comedy epic. And we're going to decide whether his creative shift from his previous films was it worth it? Was it not worth it? Did he feel good about it? Did he feel bad about it? How were the reviews? We'll find out. But I'm going to introduce the film guy, as Tony likes to call him. We're going to introduce Jack is back. And as we know, loose lips sink ships. Ooh. And I'm gonna hand over to Jack, and we're just going to talk about Spielberg before we get into the film, about his techniques, his style, the kind of films he's done, what he likes to look at in his films, what he gets right, what he maybe gets a little bit wrong, who knows. But Jack, take us to school.
I mean, thanks for inviting me on again. It's great to see you. And this is a great way to start because, as you said, like, you probably don't, a lot of people I still think in the world don't know the name of directors. I think just, Jane on the street, name me 10 directors. They might not be able to, but everybody knows Spielberg. So this is definitely the right place to start, I think, for this feature. This was definitely the wrong direction for him to go in. When you look at that run that he's got going, I mean, we can take the Sugarland Express, which is, his first like official film, if we don't count Jaws. Then we take Jaws and Close Encounters, and then we'll skip 1941 and we get to Raiders. So, like, without 1941, what a run that is. Jaws, Close Encounters and Raiders. I mean, I'm not sure there would ever be another run that could ever compete with that, really. But there's 1941, which, for the film guy, as Tony likes to call me, I've never seen it until this. And part of me wishes I never had.
Ooh, scathing review already.
I certainly don't feel like it's brought anything to my life that I was missing. Let's put it that way.
It's not the diamond in the rough for you. Because this is quite a divisive film. Like, there's a lot of people on either side of the wall. On my Facebook, I had two people that went, "Oh, I loved this when I was a kid," and I was like, "Have you seen it now?" And also, I'm watching a 2.5-hour version, the director's cut, and they both did like the shocked emoji, and I was like, "Yeah, it is that long, and it's a comedy."
And it feels twice as long, probably.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Let's rein it in. We'll get to it. But let's talk about Spielberg. What has he done for cinema? What's his legacy? What are the kind of the stylistic choices, the kind of artistic choices that he makes? That you can pick out a moment, maybe in a film or a particular scene, something that really just goes like, this is cinema.
Well, I think, along with Lucas, obviously, but Jaws came out before Star Wars. Like, he's credited, for creating the modern blockbuster, isn't he? For right or wrong, for ill. I don't think you can diminish his impact upon cinema. I don't think it can be done. Like, whether he's to your taste or not. And I think what he does do is marry spectacle and sentimentality like nobody else. And sentimentality can be a dirty word sometimes, but I don't think the way Spielberg does it. I think the way he does it is that perfect blend of like emotion and nostalgia that so many other people fail at. I don't think you can knock it. I think even those who would say he's not to my taste, I don't like his films, they would still say his legacy will live on forever. I think for me, my favorite of his is Raiders, but that probably is a lot of that is that childhood connection. So I was born in 1980, so obviously too young to see Raiders because that's the year it came out. I wasn't going at 0 to see it at the cinema, but growing up watching it, and I think for me that has that perfect sense of like adventure, and there's a little bit of danger in there, and the characters have depth and nuance, and it's all that practical stuff that he used to do so wonderfully that I think made him the director that had all these blockbusters. I mean, you can't have a run of like Jaws and the Indiana Jones, and moving on later into his career. I mean, E.T. obviously we can't forget that from the early 80s. Yeah. But then moving on later into his career, you've got Jurassic Park and Minority Report, and like you can't do this for 50 years as he's been doing it now without there being something special about you. Other directors have come and gone. He's still here at the top of his game, isn't he? Making films that still make the same amount of money now.
Absolutely. I think what you were saying about the sentimentality and the spectacle, he does that really well. He manages to ground the fantastical and reframe the mundane as to something like the shed in E.T., for example. The light comes on, the silhouette of Elliot, the wonder, the excitement. He's famous for a lot of techniques, and obviously like the kind of dolly zoom. I'm doing the whole visual dolly zoom thing, but nobody can see it. It's a podcast. But a good example is things like Jurassic Park. He does it really well. So he's kind of borrowed it from Hitchcock, and there's a lot of things he's borrowed from Ford as well. Steal from the best, why not? But like Jaws, the scene in Jaws where Brody sees the shark for the first time, you get the whole and again you see the reaction. It's like almost like a 3 shot, isn't it? It's almost like a 3, the rule of 3. You go, okay, reaction, what he's seeing, then how he feels, sort of thing. And again, it's you get the wonder and the awe or the fear. You get the emotion first, and then you're like, oh my God, what are they seeing? Show me, tell me. And that's kind of that's his kind of storytelling in a way. And obviously he's quite famous for the Spielberg wanna, as people call it, that kind of master shot that he kind of slowly, he's moving that camera around. There's no editing, there's no cuts. It's seamless. He makes it look easy. So much so that master shot, you're like, oh, I'm sure that was loads of work, loads of editing. It is loads of work, but it's not editing. He moves the camera slightly, he gets the actors to move around the frame. The blocking is very precise, especially during long dialogue and information heavy scenes. He tends to have the actors move, because if he's moving the camera and he's editing, you can lose that information, that dialogue, that exposition if you're doing too much. And it's like, oh, I'm really confused, which might be kind of 41's problem. In fact, in some respects, he doesn't kind of stick to that rule. But yeah, he loves reflections as well. Like he's a big, you can see that a lot, and often the characters are reflecting on themselves because they're looking at something they want, but then he kind of changes the focus of the camera onto the reflection. So it's like, what do they want? Do they need to change? You know, you've got the Oscar Schindler, you know, when he's looking at the workers, someone's asking him to save their family, you know, the flames reflecting in his heart, almost like he's becoming alive again and he's becoming a person again. He makes it look so easy. That's how you know it's hard, you know, and it's what he does best, I think, is those emotional beats. And he gives it a kind of, like you said, sentimentality, but there's also like a whimsical nature to a lot of his films. He does whimsy very well. That again, you can maybe criticize that and say, oh, it's a little too much for me, and the sentimentality. But there is a childlike wonder and awe to what he delivers on screen. And that's what you want in cinema. You want to feel like a child again. And I think Spielberg has that. I don't know what it is, that je ne sais quoi, but he has that. He has the technology. We can rebuild him. He has the technology. He can rebuild cinema into a blockbuster. He can do it. And I like you said, like it or loathe it, you know, not every film of his is a hit, you know, like 1941. But like if you look at the Raiders truck scene, we're talking about Raiders.
Perfection.
Visual storytelling, action scene, you know, it tells you everything you need to know, and it draws you in, it grabs you. And, you know, maybe you don't like the rest of Raiders, fair enough, but like you got to agree that is pure cinema.
Yeah, agreed. I mean that is a literal perfect scene. Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit upon loads of stuff there. I mean, the childlike nature is spot on. Like he still kind of sees the world through a child's eyes, doesn't he? And that's why he often gets such good child performances in his movies, because he can connect with the children who are performing. Because as you said, he still kind of sees the world in that way. He's a very personal filmmaker, isn't he? Like so many of his films, like born out of his life and his experiences, like particularly Close Encounters, we know was his way of dealing with like his fatherless upbringing.
I was going to say daddy issues.
Absolutely.
We see a lot of that.
We do see a lot of that. Yeah, definitely. He keeps coming back to that idea again and again. You know, the reflection, fascinating. Like War of the Worlds, like his version of that. Again, you know, you can be on the fence about that. Some people think it's really well made. Some people criticize it. But the first sort of half a dozen times you see the aliens, as you said, they're all reflected. It's either in a camera lens or it's in the like windscreen of a car. So it's all about that idea of, you know, who's the true alien, who's the true enemy. That's obviously a big environmental movie. So there's a lot of things going on that about the aliens actually representing what we've been doing to the environment and to the world. Because he manages to make that personal connection to something that can be so spectacular. I mean, that moment in Jurassic Park when Alan Grant first sees the dinosaurs is so perfectly judged, because we are him, he is our surrogate at that point in the movie. And the way that the camera pans around, and almost as Alan's seeing it for the first time, we're seeing it for the first time, then Williams' score comes in, and like, I'm not sure, it's hyperbolic, but I'm not sure if there's ever been a more perfectly judged moment in a spectacular blockbuster.
Wow.
Just because, you know, we all looked at that and went, oh my God, that looks like real dinosaurs. And we almost had that kind of hyperventilating excitement. I mean, I was 16 watching it. I was like, you know, it had been built up for ages. 16, 94, 14. So, you know, it'd been built up for ages, Jurassic Park coming out, hadn't it? With the clever trailer where we hadn't really seen anything of it. It has this special way, as you said, like childlike, whimsical, but of still seeing things as if he's an audience member, which means he can give us exactly what we desire, we require, we want, we need. And I think that's what makes him so special and what's given him such a legacy.
I agree. I do think we need to mention another person as well. I think only enhances and enriches the majority of his films. And we've got to say, it's the Mr. John Williams.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, you know, the second you were talking about Jurassic Park, I heard, na, 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 na. And you can't not link those two together. It's the same, again, with Close Encounters. They're so synonymous with each other, almost. It's like a married couple. They're just, you know, the two sides of the same coin. And they have an unspoken language that they just know each other's wavelength, and that's very rare to find in two artists that work together. You can you just like, yeah, got it. I know exactly what you're going for. I know what you feel, and again, it just adds to like Pixar. Like, you know, I just cried at Encanto when I saw that the other day. Spielberg knows how to manipulate you emotionally.
Oh, agreed.
Like,
yeah.
And again, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because you want to feel, you want to cry, you want to, even when E.T. looks like a white dog poo, you're like, oh my God, he's gonna die. You are so engrossed, and you want to be taken there. You want to be taken to those places, even if it is hard, even if it is heartbreaking. You're like, you hold the tears in, but they're gonna come anyway. You're gonna feel the fear when the velociraptors come in and they're tapping on the kitchen tables and stuff. You're gonna feel that, and he just draws it out of you. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's almost like Donnie Darko, those big bubbles that are pouring out of people. It was like, he's like, I've got you, here it comes. Oh, okay, I feel it. And I think no matter what film it is, whether it's the intensity of Minority Report and all the running that Tom Cruise does very well, it's his favorite thing is the running.
Does it very well.
Or or if it's it's the dark, menacing kind of child abduction from Hook, with Hook's shadowy figure and the claw, and he can terrify you. Like, he has great use of light and shadow as well. He can and he used shadow in a very, very unique and interesting way. Lights are also kind of almost as a mystery. It's almost like the most mysterious thing is actually in the light. It's almost it's like Poltergeist, which he supposedly directed or not. Don't go into the light. Don't go into the light, because that's the unknown. That is scary.
It's the same.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. He's going into the light. It's not going into a dark corridor or a haunted house. It's pure, angelic light that is the, not necessarily the danger, not necessarily, but it's something that you cannot explain until you see it and experience it for yourself. And again, that's such a unique kind of idea that is just kind of flipped on its head. But yeah, is there like, obviously we're not spoilers, but we're not that keen on 1941. We've talked about some of obviously the bigger ones he's done, but is there any ones that are kind of middle of the road for you, his films, or the ones that don't quite work, obviously this is a lesser known film and less kind of heralded, but is there any kind of maybe the better known films that it doesn't quite do it for you?
I mean, I can tell you one that definitely doesn't do it for me. Crystal Skull.
Oh yeah.
I think he did have a period, didn't he, around late 90s, early noughties, where like the films are perfectly decent, but I think what he wasn't doing was innovating anymore. I think he's always been an innovative director, and always, and I don't just mean like CGI and stuff. He's always been on the cutting edge of trying things out and pushing the boundaries of cinema. He's another one of these, similar to James Cameron, where like each time he does a new film, he tries to do something different, or what he does innovate within cinema. I mean, look at Saving Private Ryan, and then the next 100 war movies had shaky cam, realistic war footage, and right up to Ready Player One, where the use of the technology in that was, I'm trying to think of the word,
innovating and
but really like drawing you in and really making it feel like a realistic world. But there's a little period where things like like Amistad. I mean, obviously, what it's talking about, really important. Whether it was the most gripping, thrilling movie, I'm not sure. Oh, that's late 90s, so 97. So maybe around that sort of period, I don't know. But then you look, then Saving Private Ryan was his next one.
Yeah.
And then, so he has had a bit of up and down, like The Terminal. Very forgettable.
You know what? I'm surprised because I've not seen as many as I thought. When I was looking through the catalogue, I'm like, I've either seen them in full, or I've not seen them, or I've just not been interested. I watched for the Robot Month. I watched AI, which I really didn't like. And I said that on the podcast with Andy during Robot Month. Andy was like, "You go, tell me why you hate it, because I'll tell you the same reasons." And I was just like, "Yeah, I do not like it. It's not good. It's not well written." It just wasn't for me. I won't go into it now because you can go listen to it. Listen to the Robot podcast. Go. I've done it before, but I've
only ever seen that once, and. That says it all. I've not gone back again because it just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, Crystal Skull was just cartoony bollocks for me.
Well, again, relevant today.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of cartoony bollocks going on. I just knew when he survived the nuclear warhead in the fridge. I went, nah, I'm out. I'm gone. That's it.
Yeah.
I was like, no, not having it. he can't do the whip and he falls back into the Jeep, but then he survives the nuclear bomb. I'm like, nah, not buying it, mate. And I know there's a new one coming out, with Indiana Jones in, so please be
It's
good.
not him this time, is it? It's James Mangold that's directing.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be interesting. From Logan, James Mangold, yeah. It might be really good. It might not be. Let's find out. Who knows? Anyway, so yeah, there's a few Spielbergian ones that, I think there are. I mean, I think any artist is going to have hits and misses, and this is an interesting one to look at. But I think we can talk about it now. So I think let's talk about 1941. So this is the first time you've seen it, the first time I've seen it. You suggested it as well, which I thought was a really good suggestion, especially for this format of podcast. I think we had to go here before we go anywhere else. So what did you think? Do you want to tell us what it's about first, and then we'll go into what you thought?
Sure. My understanding is it's based on a couple of kind of real events that, within a year or two after Pearl Harbor, that were going on in California. So we had this kind of Zoot Suit Army riot, which happened in 43, I think I read. And we had this night shortly after Pearl Harbor where they believed there was going to be a raid. So they were shooting up into the sky and actually there was nothing there. So I think the Bobs, Zemeckis and Gale, had written this script based on these kind of real ideas. Oh, and it was Stilwell, wasn't it? The character of Stilwell was a
There's a couple of other things as well. The anti-aircraft gun in the garden in the backyard. That's real, and the submarine that pops up. That was apparently real as well. So it was kind of, a lot of it is very true to real life, and sometimes that can make for a really interesting film, and sometimes. But I possibly think there's maybe one or too many of those. Well,
I think from what I understand, you sent me the documentary which we both watched, which was dry, but arguably, arguably still more interesting than the film.
Definitely.
I think from my understanding of it and reading about it as well, that the script wasn't an out and out comedy like it became, and like it is that we watched and what everyone got to see. It was a bit more serious. It had a bit more drama to it. It was, when it was originally scripted. And when Spielberg came in and read the script, and he was busy because he was doing Close Encounters, and he came back to it. And I think there were quite a lot of working together rewrites. John Milius was brought in, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Look at all these names. Like, it's madness. This should be the best film ever.
It's weird because it's almost like the stars, obviously, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of practice work and time to get a film even made. Like literally filming to the point of where it's being filmed is quite an ordeal. So I think also that the stars have to align for a film to be either a box office bomb or not critically praised, or like, for example, let's say Cats. That those stars had to align in a certain way, had those certain people involved for it to be what it was and when it was. And I think it's the same for this. And this is, again, you've got everything should work about this. Yeah. Everybody behind and in front of the character, everything should work. You've got Bob Gale, Robert Zemeckis of the Back to the Future team. You've got John Milius, who wrote Apocalypse Now, directed Conan, Red Dawn, that sort of thing. So again, good films in their own right. Spielberg, like you said, arguably the best run of his career.
So hot right now.
Spielberg, so hot right now. And all the actors, Toshiro Mifune, Christopher Lee, Treat Williams, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, John Belushi, you name it. The stars came out. Warren Oates, you've got, Robert Stack? Robert
Stack, yeah.
Yeah. All these people, and you think the amount of talent, it's like a star's going to collapse in on itself. It's just critical mass. This should blow in. This could go off, this bomb, in the right way, but it really, really didn't.
No.
But please carry on with what you were saying.
No, so I just think, I think something happened in pre-production. I think was already a problem, as you said, like all these moving parts, all these moving elements, perhaps too many voices. There's some really interesting stuff I was reading about how, like, John Milius would like go off to say he was writing and would surf all day and then would, not have any work done. So, you can kind of see what was happening here. People were probably ready to take Spielberg down. So as soon as there's any kind of chink in the armor, they wanted to get this wonder kid down. But I think he steered this ship in the wrong direction. We can't lay it at his feet, but I think perhaps, some of the people he was working with on set sounded like were taking a bit of control, or he didn't know how to control them. Characters like Belushi who are improvising and are going to do what they want, and Spielberg wasn't in a position at that point in his career perhaps to rein him in and tell him no. He just wanted to watch him and let him, wind him up and let him go and see what he could do. But I don't think he had the maturity to handle this scale of a movie, because obviously the budget blew up, didn't it, from 17 to 35, something like that.
It went from a 14-week shoot to a 6-month shoot.
Yeah.
So it was
like the personalities, the movie, like the ideas people were having, they wanted to film it all, and like the budget for the effects, and some of the effects are pretty decent, to be fair. And I think it was that perfect storm, perhaps, where like he himself, within himself, needed to be brought down a peg or two. And look what happened. We get Raiders under budget, earlier, filmed earlier than it was supposed to be.
On schedule.
Before it was due, with under budget, with some of the most iconic moments, as you've said already, the truck chase, you've got the indie, I know like circumstance, but you've got the indie shooting of the swordsman. So I think he needed this to become perhaps the filmmaker he's maintained for ever since. He needed a misfire.
Arguably, it's more of a critical misfire than a box office, because it's not a flop by any means.
It made money, didn't it?
1941 is not a flop. It made I think over double its budget. I think
triple. I think I read or heard.
Triple. I've probably got it on my phone somewhere, but it was like Gale said it himself. It was not a flop. It is not a flop, and Gale, Zemeckis, Milius, Spielberg are all still very proud of this movie, regardless of how people received it. They were like, no, it's great. This is exactly what we wanted to make. Screwball, comedy, antics. And like you were saying earlier, like Zemeckis said it was a black comedy originally. And I actually think it would have worked better as a black comedy.
Much better.
It really would have. This kind of screwball.
It's like a Looney Tunes cartoon, isn't it? This.
Yeah. And that's how Spielberg describes it. A lot of the kind of wacky screwball antics and the gags and stuff. But yeah, never really. I think the main problem was we don't really have a protagonist. And that is because the more the stars came on board, the more the focus was pushed to the stars. So Belushi's big. Aykroyd are big because of SNL. So put more spotlight on them, get them on screen. And you've got this poor young lad who is effectively the protagonist. I think it's Bobby. Wally, and I think the actor's Bobby DeCoco, I want to say.
Yeah.
And he's the protagonist, and he should have been. But they decide to just go, we'll just put something over here, and somebody will do something over here. And there's no real,
isn't it?
Yeah, it does feel a bit like a sketch show. It's like, we're going over to this sketch now, and we're going over to this sketch now. And I think originally the through line was going to be Wally going through and interacting with all these and coming in and out of the scenes and things like that. And I think that would have worked better. Also, I think it would have worked better if there was no sub.
Sure, interesting.
Because the idea of the whole idea is that Pearl Harbor has got everybody into a hysteria.
Yeah.
They're going, we're going to be attacked, we're going to be invaded, the Japanese are going to come. That's not the word they use in the film, and that was not the original. 1941 was not the original title, but we'll get into that. But if you want to do that, don't actually prove their hysteria correct.
Sure. Yeah. I get your point. Yeah.
My idea would be, again, I'm like, shut up, Spielberg. I know how to write this. Shut up, Zemeckis. Shut up, Gale. I know that you have one of the best screenplays of all time that's used in many film making and screenwriting classes, but fuck you, this one. So I think it should have been Wally, who basically trying to impress a girl, comes up with the idea of that they're invading and spreads this, makes like a big hoax, creates this hysteria, and eventually it starts getting more and more out of control. People getting hurt and things, and all the way through it, he's trying to convince them it's not happening, it's not real, but that it just increases the hysteria.
He's the sense of sanity in this insanity.
Yeah, and he's like, no, I've done it. Kind of a boy cried wolf type thing, I think. Yeah. If it was something like that, and obviously they're just getting more and more worked up and more crazy, more hilarious. And they're just doing crazier and crazier things with no explanation. And then eventually he kind of manages to stop them all and just be like, I was wrong. Or he just lets it go on. Or maybe the military are like, no, we've got to make sure this, even though we know it didn't happen, we've got, for the victory and for the morale, we've got to make sure that it had happened, and we've got to convince the public, kind of like
cover up their mistake. You know. Again, you have that satire then, don't you, about it?
Yeah, exactly. And the kind of there's that black comedy to it that, in the war, Churchill and, let things happen, bad things happen to good people for, bigger victories and stuff. You could say something about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my idea. But the idea that obviously you've also got two of the most serious actors ever on a sub, not speaking the same language, German, Japanese, and then you've got slim pickings as well. Tim Matheson, Nancy Allen, didn't mention all them. They're in it as well. And as interesting as Toshiro Mifune, Christopher Lee, and Slim Pickens being in a scene is, all speaking different language.
Yeah.
I did chuckle. The first half an hour or so, I did chuckle at stuff.
Oof.
But
that's more than I did.
Yeah, I was like, there was stuff where I was just like, huh.
Right.
And that was it. I was like, huh, right. I see. That's it. It's one gag and gone. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no situations. There's no, upping the ante sort of thing. But like my idea is that I think that probably would have worked better. But that again, I don't know. I'm not a screenwriter, but that would be my premise for this film if that's what you're trying to do. But again, I think I love all the ideas that they're picking out, the sub and all this and various different bits. Like I love that hilarity in those moments are based in truth. And I think ever since...
I'll take truth. I might question hilarity.
Okay. Fair enough. I will say, well, the hilarity in the real life event, let's put it that way.
Fine, yeah.
Not within the film. But I think there's something to that. But I think there's too many of them. I think because it's just such a disparate film.
Yeah.
Nothing ever really comes together.
Because if you think only a year later, we get another sketchy movie called Airplane that comes out, which is a zany comedy, which is, like a live action cartoon, but works and is hilarious and holds up. I watched it at Christmas because it was turned on and it was on TV. And I was absolutely killing myself, still laughing. My partner then went up to bed. She was like, I'm not dealing with this. And I sat downstairs for another hour watching it all by myself, having a great time.
Also starring Robert Stack.
Of course. Yeah. But as you just said, that has a through line. It has one key. There's a plane. It's going to crash, and it's just one character steps up and does what he needs to do. So perhaps, you've hit the nail on the head there. You need a main character and you need a through line in order for all the sketchy zaniness around it to work, to play off. You can come back to the tower and...
like we were saying earlier when we were discussing it, we were saying that Spielberg grounds us in the chaos, in the madness, in the bizarreness, the alienness of his worlds, be it Ready Player One, be it, War of the Worlds, whatever. He can ground you in a way, keep you emotionally sated and keep your eye, keep your concentration, keep your focus. And he doesn't do it here.
No.
He absolutely cannot. It cannot ground this zany a film. It's too zany. And everyone's giving a zany performance.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I'm the funny one. I'm crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mugging. But a lot of it is just military and historical jargon, absolute waffle. And it's not funny. And I don't know how you would make it funny.
He's like a kid with a toy box, isn't he? He's got all these different toys that he wants to play with and all these different things moments he wants to create. And so few of them work. And it feels to me, I don't think I laughed once, if I'm honest.
Really?
I did go in with the kind of mindset of like, this has to prove itself to me. So that is part, we have to put that into perspective. I have to accept that, I wasn't going open-minded, but I think so much of it was it's called
wrong direction.
Sure.
We're looking at this for a reason. So we're going, maybe this wasn't so successful. I wonder why. That's the premise.
But it can prove us wrong, can't it? This one doesn't.
Absolutely.
But so much of it was drawn out. I mean, you were just talking then about that scene on the sub. And that is cool. Look at these three guys who've got acting in it. We've got Sim Pickens, Toshiro, Mifune, and Christopher Lee. And you said the accents, that's cool. But the scene drags. And the joke was set up like 5 minutes, 10 minutes earlier when we see him driving in his truck to get to my name is Hollywood. And we know it's coming. Why does it take so long? Like Airplane works because it's like bing, bing, bing. Like it's every second there's a joke in Airplane. So if that one wasn't funny, who cares? Here's another one. And if you miss that one, doesn't matter. Here's another one. Whereas in 1941, the joke is here. Then he gets taken by the Japanese soldiers, which have come to shore, which doesn't make any sense. Then he gets put on the sub. And then there's a conversation. And then he comes to the realization. But then he doesn't say anything. And then he says, oh, my name's Holly. Oh, my God, by then I'm lost. I mean, you're nodding off then as I'm reenacting. It just doesn't work. The humor doesn't work in this at all.
Timing.
Yeah, awful.
is the essence of comedy.
Mm.
And if you can't get the timing bang on,
Mm-hmm.
it's not. It doesn't matter what joke you tell, how well you tell it. If you
No.
can't get that timing, don't even bother. And all of these gags are like, again, we talk about Spielberg's long takes. These are his long gags. So the whole, like, even the whole Jaws parody.
Oh my God! It lost me already. It lost me from the start. It
goes on and on and on, and I'm like, yeah, doing it. You know, you got it. Yeah, here comes the subtitle. Oh, and then she's up there for ages. They have a whole scene. She's still up there, but I'm like, oh, and then they just come down, and that's it. And I was like, right, okay, I got you. But that's the that should have been it. You shouldn't have gone back to her. You shouldn't be like, oh, she's okay though. She's all right. She's not dead. You know, she's still naked up there. And then there's a gag where the guy's looking up and he's like, the Japanese guy's like, oh, it's Hollywood. And he sees a naked lady and he's like, oh, great, this is what Hollywood's about. And then Toshiro Mifune slaps him around and apparently did that in real life as well, apparently. They were Japanese kind of Californians and he was like, you're not real Japanese. I'll show you real Japanese.
Oh, wow, okay.
He started slapping around. You're not disciplined enough. I think they were just kind of like very chill guys, just kind of knocking about. And he's like, nah. It's not even to shape, quite literally. Anyway, but
your sense of mugging is all here, isn't it? This is Spielberg mugging as a director. Like, look how cool I am. I made Jaws and I can take the mick out of myself. And it doesn't work. It's awful. Oh, it's the same actress. Haha, how funny. Like, I don't get it. Like, that scene, I was already like, oh, shit, if this is the
pinnacle.
Well, I mean, if this is where we're starting, like, do you know what I mean? That would have like first impressions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's... He does as well. He goes back to, I think, where Kelso lands, so where that's the gas station from Jewel, and it's the same actress from Jewel as well. Yeah. So it's almost like a wink and a nod to himself. He's like, oh, I'm dead clever. You wouldn't notice that, but you know. And I was just again like all the stuff with Belushi is not good.
It's awful.
It is absolutely. It's just like again, it's just him like going, wah, and I want to kill people. Wah. All the characters are one note, one note. Like every gag, every kind of character is just like, I'm the creepy evil boyfriend, and I'm possibly gonna, assault you. And
not possibly, definitely.
No, definitely, he definitely did because there's like. We'll talk about the casual racism as well. I think while we're here, let's talk about the more controversial stuff. So
I mean, just a general view of women.
Yeah,
in this is not good.
Oh no,
this is not one for Ria's Femme on Film show.
Absolutely not.
And the general view of other races is not great either.
No, and it's like I get if there was something like. There was kind of a lesson learned or something like, we're different, but like, I don't know, like 48 hours. So you're a criminal, you're a cop, you're a black guy, I'm a white guy. But we learn to get along in the end, even though we insult each other throughout the entire thing. Mm-hmm. Eventually they go, you know what, you're all right. If there was something like that, but there's kind of that at the end, but not. And it's just, there's a lot of slurs thrown around. There's even a moment where I was like, I can't believe they've said that in a comedy. Yeah, and it's a bit in the dance hall, and everything is destroyed and in tatters.
Oh yeah.
And they say, and he goes, maybe next week. What a great party. Maybe next week we'll get some black people, not the word he used, but and we'll have a race riot.
Yeah. Awful.
And I was like, fuck me, that's
like, coming from a guy who's already been slammed earlier in the movie for being like Italian, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think. She goes like, "Where are you from?" And I think, what's your real name or something like that. So I think he goes, "Oh, I'm Ernesto or something," or he's or Bob. I can't remember exactly. That's the guy from Happy Gilmore who's like jackass. That guy. I don't know his real name, but that's the same guy. And but there's a lot of like again the term. A term for black people again I will not use. The term for Japanese people again I will not use. The original title for the film was The Night the So-and-so's Invaded, I think was the original title. And the studio wisely said, let's not use that word, please. And I think that was, but it's like, I get if they're trying, I understand that obviously we're not as enlightened as we were back then and they want to show a realistic version of that. But I also think they're just throwing it in. And I'm like, it's not a joke. They're not making a point of it. There's obviously a bit where the racism is challenged and and sort of stuff like that. But it's almost a bit too. I think for me, when a racial slur is used in a casual way, it's almost worse.
Yeah.
If it's said in anger, I'm like, that's kind of what I expect. But there's something a bit more insidious when somebody just says it off the cuff, and when it means nothing to them. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's only two ways you can use it, isn't there? You can use it to therefore then challenge it later on, as you said.
Yeah,
it needs to be challenged, or it needs to be used by a person who you're meant to hate, and that's part of why you hate them.
Exactly.
It's still not okay, but that's the point. Like, it's not okay for them to be saying it.
Or it's a character who thinks like that and is changed by the end of the film.
Sure. Yeah.
I think
none of that is here. I don't think
nothing. It's just casual racism for the sake of casual racism. Again, you could argue like Tarantino throws in a lot of slurs and things in his work, but I don't know. It just felt very wrong to me within the idea of it being a comedy, because obviously World War II was absolutely hilarious, and it makes a great topic for a movie, a comedy epic. But like you were saying about the women as well, like Ned Beatty as well. I literally do not have a list long enough for all the good actors that are in this. That's how that's why the focus went on all these other actors. Because you're like, why not use them? If we're paying for them, let's fucking use them. So I get it, but I don't think it helped the film and the narrative in the film. But he goes up to his daughter, and again, the women in the film are like, well, you're gonna have to shag a lot of soldiers, so get ready. Even if you hate them, even if you despise them, you're gonna have to shag them. And even
they deserve it because they're going off to war.
Yeah, and they're all like, and they're all like fawning over these women and trying to grope them and stuff. And it's in Ned Beatty, it says to his daughter, you're going to have to make a lot of difficult decisions, and you're going to meet a lot of people, and you're going to do some things you don't want to do. But there are boys, so go shag them.
It's great, isn't it?
I was just like, wow. And that's like, it almost works. Like for me, I was like, it's totally gross, but the delivery, timing for that almost works. There's another gag that Slim Pickens did, which worked for me, which is why they swallowed the compass, and they're trying to get the compass to find Los Angeles. Or Hollywood, they're trying to find Hollywood, aren't they? And he says, you're not getting shit out of me. That's a funny line, because obviously the context of it. But I don't even think that they knew that was a funny line.
Right, yeah.
It was like, it was like, oh, you're not getting shit out of me because I won't tell you anything. I won't, I'm even if you torture me. But obviously he's in the toilet and they need him to shit, and they're giving him prune juice and stuff. But it's not quite there, the timing. And again, it just falls flat. The whole film falls flat. I was going to say Shakespeare. His name's not Shakespeare, it's Spielberg. He's a cinematic Shakespeare. He said that it was too noisy and there was too much chaos. What do you think to that?
Too noisy, too much chaos? God, I mean, yes, absolutely. It's all noise. It's all chaos. It's just, it doesn't feel like there's any control to anything, really. You hear criticisms of Judd Apatow and that kind of era of this improvisational comedy where people are allowed to just run, and then he would somewhat chop around it. But I mean, I'm not sure what's going on here. As you said, like, everyone is allowed to just be over the top, zany, and every scene has a million things going on in it, which takes marshalling, does take skill to do. But I just come back to Airplane again, or I come back, War isn't inherently funny, but Hot Shots is.
Yes.
And that's another film where, like, there's a million things going on in every scene, but it just takes a particular hand, a particular skill to marshal that, so that you are drawn to the right places at the right time. Whereas this is just, do what you want, I'll film it, and then
hope for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you said, John Belushi, like, when he's he's pulled up and he's got petrol for his plane, hilarious. And then when he drives off and he pulls the petrol pump out, hilarious. And then he's flying and he brings a Coke out of his flight suit and he can't open it, so he smashes it on the side of the plane and then like pours it all over himself. Yeah. I don't know what this is doing. I don't know why you think this is funny. I don't know what it's got to do with his character, how it's telling me anything about the story, which is what all good storytelling does, whether it's comedy or drama. Or
the funny thing is,
well,
he does it. Like, Spielberg can do it. Like this is stuff he does really well.
Definitely.
But did he need this film to learn those lessons?
Well, yeah.
Or to cement those lessons in his head?
Yeah.
To go, right, what do I go back? Do I learn? Because he says these are some of the most interesting reviews he's ever got, which says to me that he's gone, right, what have they said? Let's have a look. It's not like, I made a shit film. Oh, it's bad. No. It's not that. It's that, he's trying to find what went wrong. He's a scientist. Yeah. If he repeats the same experiment without changing the parameters, it's just madness. So he's going, fair enough, you didn't like it. What is it that they took from this that they didn't get? What didn't they get out of my other movies that they did? Well,
he's made nothing funny up until this point, has he?
No.
So, if we include Jaws, so we've got Jaws, Sugarland Express, Jaws, and Close Encounters. None of those have any comedy in them at all, really. Sugarland, maybe a couple of touches.
Sure. I think he can do comedy. But
as you said, he does. Raiders is funny.
Absolutely.
Catch Me If You Can is hilarious. But as you said, maybe that's because he learnt the lesson here. I think that's really insightful what you just said then. This was his first attempt, and again, I'll use your words back at you, it falls flat. But then even when he's making films which aren't comedies, they have funny moments in them because perhaps he's learned how to time and how to control his actors and when to say no and where to position the camera to capture the right moment and how much coverage he needs. And perhaps these are all the lessons he learned on this movie. I think that's probably true.
Maybe the question is that the film he went in the wrong direction, but maybe because of this, his career went in the right direction.
Yeah, nice.
Arguably, you were saying that, like, when has he been funny? I was reading this quote before. So he shared the news with his close friends in Hollywood. Spielberg, he was doing this. He was doing a comedy. It was, it's new, exciting. He loved the writing. He was very excited. And his friends in Hollywood, somebody said, "Why is he doing a comedy? When has Stephen ever been funny?"
Well, I can imagine that.
Literally. And even Bob Gale said it's not his strong suit. Bob Gale wrote the thing, gave it to him and went, yeah, it's probably not your bag particularly. But again, like we said, Raiders is hilarious. That scene with the mirror, the way he bangs the chin, it's just fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So he can do it. But I think he's better at kind of short bursts of humor. A lot of people find it annoying, but in Temple of Doom, I find, Willie and her screaming and everything, I find it quite hilarious. I actually quite enjoy Temple of Doom. I know, again, very racist, not the best, but as a film itself, I enjoy that adventure and that. And
that's a great comparison for this one, I think. I think the opening to Raiders, the Anything Goes musical number.
Temple of Doom, yeah.
Yeah, it's the closest thing he's ever done since to 1941. There's a zaniness about that scene with Indy trying to get the antidote.
Yes.
The big musical number in the background.
Oh, that's hilarious in itself. It's deadly, it's scary, it's tense, but it is funny.
Yeah, so I think that perhaps that's what 1941 could have been if it had come at a later point in his career, perhaps.
I'm pretty sure he uses Anything Goes in this in the soundtrack or some.
Right, well, so there's a definite through line, isn't there? And he says, doesn't he, he kind of wishes, the one thing he does wish if he could go back would be perhaps to commit and make 1941 an actual musical. And the best bit in the movie is the musical number in the middle in the dance hall.
Absolutely. And what has he finally just done recently? He did West Side Story. He finally did a musical, which has very similar dance sequences from what I remember of the original, what I've seen of the trailer. Here's a really good example of what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. In Raiders, we have the scene with, what's his name? The German guy with the burnt hand. What's his name?
Oh, he's like...
something.
Something like that, isn't he?
Yeah, it's the one in the leather. He has the burnt hand. He's like, "Hello, Fraulein." Very, very stereotypical. Big lips. Head blows up at the end. You know him. He's your best mate. He's probably not your best mate. But there's a gag that works in Raiders that originates from this film. So he comes in. He's going to torture Marion, and he starts getting his torture device out. He starts assembling it. And it turns into a coat hanger. Ha, 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 ha. It's only a coat hanger. And it works. Christopher Lee did that in this film with Slim Pickens. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm just going to put this gag in every film until it works.
Yeah.
And it didn't work in this film, so he cut it, so it's not in the film.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea was eventually used, and the timing was better, and obviously it was more, because it's such a threatening, dangerous situation, that undercut the tension with that comedy works. But with that, because you're already, it's like, I'm Slim Pickens, and I ain't going to give you shit. It just doesn't work. And I think it's done a bit more to the side. It's not done as presentationally.
It's not prominent, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, oh God, what's he going to put together? What's this thing he's going to do to Marion? So I think that is a good example. So again, he can do it. And I think, like we've said, he's learned his lesson.
Yeah. I just looked up as you're talking. Tote, I think his name is. Is that right?
Tote, yeah. Tote, that sounds right.
Slim Pickens is another thing to pull out of this, I think, as well, which tells you what he was going for, doesn't it? Because obviously Slim Pickens, Doctor Strange, Love Connection, another like comedy war movie. I'm not the biggest fan of that, if I'm honest. I think I understand its merits, but again, I don't necessarily find it particularly funny. I find it
Doctor Strange
and insightful, and it's got something to say, but I'm not sitting there rolling with laughter, which I'm sure some people are. And I think we know Spielberg looks up to Kubrick. He talks about him as being the kind of pinnacle filmmaker for him, and we know he then obviously went on to make AI because Kubrick couldn't.
Minority Report as well, that was his.
Arguably two of his worst films, which is interesting that Spielberg is, and then of course the Shining sequence in Ready Player One as well. So we know that he's kind of reaching to be like his idol, which I guess a lot of us do. This definitely falls short of what he's aiming for, as does AI, which is quite interesting. So he's definitely better off sticking to what he can do, which is wide ranging. It's not one thing. Do you know what I mean? He's made a wide range of movies within different genres with different aims.
You can't tell me Hook is the same as Ready Player One.
Of course, yeah.
It's
or
not
Saving Private Ryan or Schindler's List. Or,
absolutely. They might have a similar World War II setting or a sci-fi element, but they're very drastically different films. There is variety.
Yeah.
Like his techniques are all the same. Like the way he does it, it's all the same. It's the same toolbox.
Yeah.
But again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And those particular tools work for the storytelling, the narrative, and it's one of his best things. He is a storyteller, and he does that best. He, like we've talked about, the emotional manipulation, the drawing in. He bloody loves his circles as well. You can't move for a circle with his film. It's always circles. There's so much stuff about him, but. Yeah, Kubrick, in fact, speaking of Kubrick, he said about this film, it's a great film, not funny.
Right, okay. Well,
he said it should have been...
half right.
Yeah, he said it should have been a serious film. It should have been a drama. It should have been a war epic or whatever. It should have been that. It's not funny. And Kubrick is absolutely spot on with that.
Another guy famous for not being particularly funny. But he's absolutely correct here. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of moments, isn't there? I think early on when there's at the press conference, when Stillwell first comes into it, you've got the horrible sexual politics of, is it Donna, I think, who is turned on by aeroplanes, and you've got her ex-boyfriend trying to manipulate her into a plane. That's gross. That's not funny. But when they keep cutting away from them, there's this kind of series of calamitous events that are happening. But you just said it before, they're really short. It's like, because he knocks the joystick, it knocks the guy off the wing, which sets off this, and then it ends up with a bomb rolling out of the plane, doesn't it, towards the stage and blowing up. Those little snippets are would be funny in a different film. They sort of made me think, here's a moment that could have been funny. Again, made me think of Airplane. It's those little kind of like visual gags, quick poppy visual gags.
The thing with Airplane as well is what's great about Airplane is you've got all the gags you love, but every time you watch it, you see another gag you never did.
Yeah, it's true.
Because there is, even if it's a visual gag, a verbal gag, whatever, there's always something that you've missed. There's constantly. So if you're laughing and you miss a joke, you're already ready for the next one. You're already ready for the punchline, the setup, and go. You know, with this again, it's just like, here's the gag. Here's the punchline.
And even sitting through these bits, which are like 2-second snippets of being funny, you've got to keep coming back to this horrible sexual politics and unfunny moment of these two guys. And so even when it's something that's marginally amusing, 2 seconds later, you're going to be back in that cockpit where you don't want to be. Because, they say cockpit as if that's hilarious.
Yeah, of course. So funny. Great puns. But I think you are right. Earlier on, you said, it's just a lot of lads sat round, going, oh, this will be funny. This will be great. This will be good. Well, I used to do some sketch comedy back in the day. And I was a bit more I could write better, snappier sketches than the long ones. The long ones I wasn't as good at. And that was I was like, yeah, that's fine. I'm quite happy just doing those because that's my skill set. I go, okay, that is what I can do. We had a couple of friends who were stoners, and there's a bit of we're not so friendly with them now anymore, but they would get stoned and write comedy, and they're not Seth Rogen. They absolutely were not Seth Rogen. They wrote this whole thing, and it was like folk candles,
right?
It was basically that, but the whole thing was that it was a physical comedy thing. But the way they wrote it was just like, this person gets this out, but the other person wants this.
Right, okay.
And and I was like, I'm not doing that sketch because I don't get it. I don't think it's funny.
This is like the Three Stooges type stuff, which this is obviously aiming for as well.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I don't know a lot of Three Stooges, if I'm honest.
Yeah. No, it's like the Four Candles was two Ronnies, but it's kind of in that similar vein. But where that's funny, this really wasn't. And it basically ended up being very calamitous, and it was just like, oh, hello. And it was just them kind of throwing props around. It wasn't funny. And they smashed a light bulb, and we had to clear it off while we were performing. It was a fucking nightmare. Lovely guys for the most part, apart from apart from some money that kind of went into the wrong pocket or into the wrong places, and led to a disagreement. But anyway,
got smoked
probably more than likely. So yes, we're not that close to them anymore. But yeah, it was just it like comedy is tough, and even Spielberg has quoted himself as saying, "It's not my wheelhouse. It was fucking tough." Like
I bet.
It says expletive, the quote I found, but he went, it's tough. It's effing tough, whatever, shitting tough, whatever expletive you want to put in there. It's not easy. It's not a thing. Yeah. And again, like, artists are allowed to take risks. They're allowed to try things, and not all of it's going to work. Like you do learn, and you make mistakes, and you should have the ability to do that. Some producers don't necessarily like that. I know on the screening, the producers all came over and they said, one of them said, there's a film in here somewhere. We should really go out and find it. And all the other producers just didn't want to talk to him. But again, they didn't lose money. Again, they made money, but it wasn't Close Encounters, Jaws money, which is what they're after.
Absolutely, of course they were.
So it might be perceived as a box office bomb, but again, it is not. It is definitely
a critical flop, isn't it? But it's a commercial success. Yeah,
absolutely. Again, like we said, it's not as good. But we were talking about some gags that work better in other films as well, and you pointed one out to me actually, which was the whole eggs gag with Treat Williams' character. Treat Williams, I love as well. I think he's a great actor. I love him in Hair and all the stuff he's done. Dead Heat's a good one as well, if you've ever seen that.
I have, yeah.
Love that one. That's a zombie buddy cop movie. Brilliant. Yeah. And he's very much a Biff character, isn't he? And you pointed out that there's a gag that goes on with him and Eggs, which is quite similar to what happens with Biff from the writers of Back to the Future.
Yeah, again, perhaps perfecting their craft here. Although, Biff is kind of rapey too. So there are there's definitely some commonalities between those characters, because
he's the bully, he's the aggressive sexual bully, isn't he?
Oh, it's gross.
Yeah, and I think there's not enough humor with that character. There's nothing funny about that character.
No, not at all.
Other than he's like, I don't like eggs. And again, it doesn't land. And then you've got
just a sexual predator who is like, he's got his eyes on this woman, and he's going to get her no matter what, no matter who stands his way. He's going to do with her whatever he wants. It's gross.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be funny and charming,
it's supposed to be funny. Yeah.
It's just like he literally.
Does she have her friend who's like chasing after him? So I guess it's supposed to be like it's that zany thing. Like, he's chasing her, but she's chasing him. And all I kept thinking was, what the hell does she see in him?
Yeah, absolutely. She was like, "You're for me. You're the man for me."
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be funny that she's a little overweight or not quite his type.
Yeah.
which I thought was not very nice either to the poor actress, or the idea of it's like, oh well, I don't want you because you're not quite her,
exactly,
which it infers that because she's more overweight or a larger lady. I don't want to offend any ladies out there that have a larger frame. I've got a larger frame as well, so
she's not your Hollywood starlet.
No, exactly. And the other one, it very much is like they're joining the USO show and stuff, and she's not your average Hollywood starlet, like you've said. And I think there's a gag there. There's supposed to be some comedy there, but I'm
definitely
like,
because she can fight too, because she's brawny.
Yeah, of course, she knocks guys out and punches them, and she can throw him around. So there's like, oh, he's not that masculine, but she is. Sort of, there's a gag there, and
it definitely is. Yeah.
Again, I can see the gags, but they're not. It's the execution of them.
Is it Billy? Is that the character? The daughter, the character.
Yeah, I think so. Ned Beatty's daughter's character.
Yeah, again, she very much fits a kind of Hitchcockian Spielberg mold, doesn't she? She's very kind of Willy from Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Watching that documentary that you sent me, there was a lot of Spielberg with a camcorder, talking to her and spending time around her. I noticed.
Oh, really?
So she was definitely an object of his affection, I think. Yeah.
Well, he met a very similar blonde Temple of Doom. Similar character. Yeah. He was like,
absolutely.
I love annoying women that scream. They're the best.
Yeah,
they're my favorite. Yeah. That is my kink. I love characters. Annoying
Each
characters.
Their own, right? Each their own.
Annoying blonde women from the 30s, 40s that scream a lot. They're my favorite. But yeah,
that is definitely true. We've solved that today. Tarantino feet, Spielberg, annoying, historic. Blonde bombshells.
Yeah, so
accurate blonde bombshells.
The blonde bombshells thing. So yeah, we talked about Hitchcock and his ladies as well in our last podcast.
We did.
So,
yeah.
It's all coming together, these bloody directors and their kinks.
There's a character I've got to ask you about.
Sure.
When we go to like the ocean front, and the two guys get put up on the Ferris wheel, which I know they wanted to be the honeymooner guys. Was it Art Carney and?
Oh yeah, and
what's what the other person's called?
Art Carney, yeah, because Art Carney was in the Star Wars Holiday Special, as you know.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And what was his name? Forget it. Right.
But by this point, they weren't talking, were they? So they
no.
Didn't do it.
No.
So we have like the grumpy old man, and then we have the younger guy who are put together, and they're like on watch, aren't they, in a Ferris wheel over the seafront. And it turns out the younger guy's a ventriloquist. I don't want to talk ill of people. Eddie Deason, I think, is the actor. I specifically looked his name up.
Yeah, you've heard it. You've heard that voice before, haven't you? If you've heard that voice from every annoying nerd you've ever heard in a film, and it usually is voiced by him, I think he might have been on Dexter's Lab as well. I think he played the villain in Dexter's Lab. I think it's Mandrake or something, or Moondark or whatever his name was. But you've also got the mayor from Jaws up there, haven't you?
Oh, is that who that
That's
is?
it, yeah. It's Murray.
I didn't pick that out.
Yeah, that's him. He's got big glasses on and a hat, but that is him. Funnily enough, on the documentary we watched, They were like, well, we want Eddie Deason in the film. They were like, we need Eddie Deason in the film for some reason. And Murray Hamilton went up to Spielberg and he went, you know what? I'm not going to have any problem with playing this part. And he said, oh, why is that, Murray Hamilton, mayor from Jaws? He said, because I fucking hate this little bastard.
Yeah, I am with him. He is so annoying. I recently got Chris and Dave on their VHS Strikes Back podcast. We're crossing the streams here.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
To review Ski Patrol.
Oh right.
And that has a character in that called Suicide, who is probably the worst screen character I've ever seen.
Wow.
Like I really I've only watched that once, and I really took against him, and I kind of stitched them right up, picked it, knowing how awful that film is, but particularly how awful that character is and the actor is. This guy comes close.
Wow, really?
Every second he was on screen, it's nails on a chalkboard. I just wanted him. I wanted him off.
Just blow up that bloody Ferris wheel already.
Yeah.
And again,
feed him to the shark.
That sequence of them blowing up the Ferris wheel,
right, yeah.
Get to the gag.
Yeah.
It was just
great effect.
That's one of the best things. I think the music is good. I'll be positive. I think the music is great. Right? John Williams. It's Spielberg's favorite march of John Williams.
I mean, that's not true, but all right.
No, I don't agree. But that's his particular favorite march. It's just I can't even remember what I was talking about now.
Good bits. So the music.
Bits, yes, good. See, it's so hard to hold on to these good bits. Music, the dance choreography you've already mentioned, and the special effects, like the miniature work.
The miniature's great.
Like all just really good, really well done. I love the bit in the plane where it spins and Tim Matheson always falls out the window. Thought that effect looked great as well. The dogfight stuff, the artillery, all of that. It's good. And Spielberg he says he should have got an assistant director to do all this, because I think this is why it ballooned out of budget. Now this is at a time as well. This is interesting because this is at a time where the big name directors are doing the big budget flops. We're talking Heaven's Gate. We're talking Sorcerer with William Friedkin and
great film.
I love Sorcerer. I fucking love Sorcerer. Just happened to come out the same weekend as Star Wars. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
And this is the change in Hollywood, because it's like they were just piling money on them. They're like, you're a big name director. You've made these blockbusters. Go, go, go. Deer Hunter was great. Exorcist was great. Go, go, go. Jaws, Close Encounters was great. Have some money, money, money. And it almost is this. Apocalypse Now as well. Ford Coppola makes Apocalypse Now, big, balloons out of budget again. And this changes Hollywood. This included, among all those films, all the auteurs, like, I can't remember what bloody Scorsese was making at the time, but again, I think it was like King of Comedy, maybe, something like that. Again, all just... And this ends that era of the auteur. This changes Hollywood, arguably for forever.
Yeah. For
the worse, for the better, whatever you may think, but it's the end of that kind of hubris of the director.
Yeah, sure.
It is like, for all of them, I think they all learned a lesson from it. I don't think there's a single director out there who didn't go, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have made that, or maybe I could have done this, or how many times is Ford Coppola and Spielberg and George Lucas going to stop playing around with their fucking films? That film is out. Like, that, it belongs to the social consciousness. I don't mind a good director's cut, but 5 or 6 director's cuts down the line, I'm not bothered anymore.
It's so minimal what you're doing now.
It's just like, I personally, I think Apocalypse Now is fine. The Redux added nothing for me. I've not even looked at the newest one because I'm like, don't mess with it. It's perfect. Don't touch it.
There's not many director's cuts that make a massive difference. And if they do, it's because the film is only okay anyway. So, something like Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven jumps to mind.
Sure.
But the director's cut of that is a lot better, but it's still only a decent movie. It's just because it was really crap before. But now it's pretty decent. Films that were already basically great anyway, and they wanted to tweak this and change that. Yeah, I don't think...
No.
As you said, I think it's a social conscious thing. I think because it's in our heads so strongly, we don't necessarily feel we need those changes.
No. And speaking of director's cuts, you watched the theatrical cut.
I did,
Which is a little under 2 hours. I decided to torture myself and watch the director's cut just for shits and giggles. And like I said, first half an hour, I'm like, yep, the novelty has run out.
Yeah.
And I've still got 2 hours left. I could watch another film for the same, like a better film. I could have watched Spielberg's other films, one of them, any of the many I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it ran out, and I don't really think you missed anything. I don't think it adds anything from the differences we've compared. I found a website online, I think it's Movie Censorship, and they compare different cuts of films, and they'll tell you exactly what the differences are thematically. Timings, everything. It's a really good website, actually. Check it out if you want to know the difference between a few different cuts of films. But yeah,
I think what I picked out, interestingly, is what you were talking about. There still obviously wasn't enough in your version. There was a little bit more of a through line, with Willie appearing in a couple more scenes, or having a bit more character development. Perhaps he has a bit more motivation. For me, it's basically the restaurant scene where they're having the weird backwards and forwards in the kitchen, and then the argument in the actual diner.
Right.
And then essentially we're cut into the garage, and then we're cut into the dance fit.
Really? Okay.
Willie in my version. So you had a bit more where he was like getting his suit and...
Yeah, he, again, not the most likable characters in this film. Probably the least likable John Candy role you'll ever see as well, which is is fucking hard to pull off to make John Candy unlikable. He plays just an out-and-out racist and is quite proud of the fact that he's an out-and-out racist as well. But these lads, to steal a zoot suit they can't afford, they pretend to set off an air siren. And again, this goes back to my earlier idea, is make him the cause of panic.
Yeah.
And then have him try and fix this problem. Have you ever seen a film called Miracle Mile?
I'm going to say no because I can't think of what it would be. So
that's fine. Don't worry. It's basically a nuclear nuclear Armageddon film. So a young lad who's played by the Goose from Top Gun.
Anthony Edwards. Okay.
Yeah, he picks up a phone in LA while going to meet his girlfriend, and this guy says, "I'm going to set off a nuclear bomb, or the reactor's going to blow." And then he goes around. He tells a ton of people in this diner, and then mass hysteria takes over LA. I think it is, and that is basically what I think this film could have been.
Yeah.
It does have comedic moments, it have dark moments, it does have something. I won't spoil the ending, but they did think the ending should be changed, but that might be because, it might not have made that much money. But we check it out. It's not I wouldn't say it's an amazing film, it's an interesting film, to be sure. But I think there's something of that in this, and there's something that this is missing. And again, just too much going on, too many different things, too many different parts. But yeah, on the whole, not great.
No. And just like so many misjudged moments as you were talking and I was listening, like a couple of things were like just so misjudged, like coming back to some of the race stuff. There's the tank fight between Dan Aykroyd and Frank McRae,
good God.
Where they end up like a black guy ends up with a white face and a white guy ends up with a black face, and it's supposed to be hilarious. And like,
they're like, we're different. And
the moment just doesn't pay off at all. And perhaps if there'd been some sort of decent commentary earlier on, or things had been called out, this would have really paid off what was necessary. But it doesn't work in the moment, does it?
And like the only character really that sees sense in all this and sees it from the start, and again could have been a character to like go, no, you're doing it wrong, or this is, he says, this isn't the state of California, this is the state of madness.
Aykroyd's character,
actually Stillwater, I think, is Stillwater. He says that, but then Aykroyd's character is like, I hate seeing Americans fight Americans.
Yeah,
and then he goes on this kind of almost Trumpian type speech about the foreign people invading and taking over, and you don't want that. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be fighting there's even a racist caricature on the dance floor. Did you see that?
I don't know if I did. No.
There's I think it's Hirohito. Is it Hirohito? Was it Hirohito? Or the Japanese leader at the time? I think something like that.
Okay, sure. I'll have to take your word for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a guess and I'll say that's it. And it's Hitler in a kind of a racist kind of caricatures on the dance floor, like, we're going to step on their faces. But I'm like, that was along with all the obvious other racist stuff. I was like, not great. But it's just like Stillwater's like, he likes Dumbo. That's his gag. I like Dumbo, and I just want to keep watching Dumbo no matter what's going on outside. And again, that could have worked if, like, again, there was more, madness maybe in the cinema screen, and he's still watching. Like if it was an airplane style thing, it would be like
it would have come in. Actually, it would have come into the cinema.
Yes, exactly.
And he still would have kept watching.
Yeah, and he's like, don't worry, that's fine. And it's this guy's like, no, sir, it's this. Like that would have been the gag. And it's almost like it just takes a little tweaking. It could have worked. I think there's just a slight realignment of the timing of the pace of it. 2.5 hours is too long for a comedy. I'll straight up. It's too long for most films, I'd say. It's very rare I'll sit down. I know nowadays a lot of the big films are 2.5 hours anyway. I think the Batman is coming to 3 hours. I think the new Batman film. But as long as it's done well, as long as I don't notice the time, I'm not shifting in my sleep, and I'm not going to the toilet. It grabs my attention, then it's fine. But like hour and a half is good for me. 2 hours, just about. Like Funny People, which I didn't find very funny, went on for 2+ hours, and I'm like, what is like you it's almost like a Michael Bay movie. You hit the finale in the middle, and then you've got another hour left for no reason. You're like, you've said all you need to say about these transforming robots, Michael. You don't need to say any more. That was a huge, amazing action sequence, and now you're just carrying on the story for no reason.
It's like a micro and a macro, isn't it? for 1941. Like the micro is, the scenes drag on too long. Like the one's just jumped into my head as you were talking when they're at the house by the beach shop where they place the gun and the dad's lining up the sight. We see that the sight is lined up incorrectly, so it's going to blow up the house.
Yeah.
But it's not for another 5 minutes whilst we watch the mum. And again, it could be fun if it's done properly. She's tidying up things from the house, which makes no sense because the whole house is going to get destroyed. Yeah. Like it's that like, micro and macro is like.
And they really telegraph the gag as well. Like it's like, like the targeting device or crosshair, whatever, is on the ship. The turret is pointed at the house. That's the gag. That's the visual gag. And the mum is being in the window and the gun is pointed at her. And someone's like, And again, it goes on and on and on. And we know where it's going. We know what the gag is going to be. But we're still like, this is going to be funny. Well, just you wait. It's going to be funny.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and you're like, I know what's going to happen. I see it coming a mile off. Mm-hmm. Again, it's like, people talk about telegraphing punches. You can see it coming a mile away, and it's not funny. It's not interesting. No. Again, it's like paint by numbers comedy. It's like, like you're a dad, when like, kids are learning to tell jokes for the first time, and they're like, ha ha ha, poo. And stuff like that, like knock knock poo, and it's like, oh yeah, I see that you find poo funny, but you haven't got the timing or the structure of the joke. You can't. That's not something you can figure out just right. But you're trying, and you're working, you're piecing it together, you are learning. But initially, it's just like jokes like that, and eventually they'll go duh, 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 that gets the best reaction. Again, it's like an experiment, but it's almost like that. It's like, I have a funny idea. This is a funny idea. Here is my funny idea. Look at me showing you my funny idea. Like you're explaining a joke to us and instantly it's not funny.
Agreed. And if you'd cut out 4 of those steps, the joke would have been funny and the film would have been an hour shorter.
And again, we're talking about his skill set is narrative, timing, storytelling. And he's telling that story, but it's not... he's telling that story, he's telling that joke, and it could be funny. But it's just the length of time, I think, again. It's the timing aspect for me of those jokes. And that, for me, is the main crux of this. The length of time, again, of the film. So these gags, again, they're too long. And they're like, well, I filmed this much, so that gag has to stay in because it's this long.
Yeah. It was almost like, I've got all this stuff, I'm going to use it all.
Yeah. These are all my gags. And again, and even the gags like the eggs when the guy who doesn't treat William doesn't like the eggs, he's the bully, he's the and then Back to the Future, the manure, I don't like manure, don't get manure on me. And again, it's a repeated gag. And again, we see that manure gag in like all 3 films, and it still works.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen it every single time, in the future, in the past, in the present, in the 1950s. We see it 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And we still laugh every time, but not here. Not here at all. But yes, I think we have probably said all we can say about 1941. So I'm just gonna move on.
Yeah.
And we're coming slowly to a close, I think. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to say. Is there any other kind of trivia or anything else you wanted to mention, maybe?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, in the end credits, we get like these moments, don't we, of characters. So we get the classic kind of, it's not a still frame here, it's, a few seconds of footage, isn't it? Just mostly characters shouting or screaming with, like Dan Aykroyd, ah!
That gag where he gets knocked on the head and he just goes insane. It's not funny. He just goes, funny. He's just like, and he starts eating. The bit where he puts tights on his head, he's got 2 oranges. He's like, I'm a bug.
It made me think of it's escaping me now. What's the film that you did at just before Christmas with the son who's putting on the tights? It's the woman.
New Year's Evil.
Yeah. It made me think of New Year's Evil.
I'm crazy.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
It is that, and it's not funny there. It's not funny here.
No, doesn't have any place in that movie, nor in this one.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
I was just going to say, so we have these end credits, don't we? And they give the dummy a credit. Hilarious.
Oh God, so funny.
But I don't know if it was just me, but that dummy looked a lot like Steven Spielberg. No,
Are you saying that he knew what he was doing and he was like, I am a dummy?
I'm just saying maybe I made that connection at the end of that movie because I just couldn't take it anymore.
You're a dummy, Spielberg. You're a dummy. I will say this was voted in AFI's. This was nominated in the 2000s list in 2000 for the 500 funniest American. So it's out of 500 films. It was nominated to be one of the top 100 funniest American movies.
That's bollocks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that didn't make the make that particular list. I'd like to see what's on it though. I would like to see if that was nominated. And there was a Blu-ray released back in 2015, which got a new sound mix and and the score was restored as well.
Mm-hmm.
And this impressed Spielberg so much, he did an exhibition of it. So he thinks that sound mix and he thinks that's fixed it. That's done. It was too loud. People thought it was too loud and the music was too loud, the effects were too loud. So the sound mix.
I'd go to one of those live orchestral things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd go watch John Williams doing the score for it. That'd be great. That'd be fine. I'd be up for that. Just don't bother putting it on the screen in the background.
Nah, just close your eyes.
Blank.
Just close your eyes and imagine a funnier film. That's what I'd do. They did a screening of it as well that year, and they released the restored score on CD. And Gail turned up, Fate Shan, so I think was the producer. Tim Matheson and Nancy Allen turned up as well, and they loved being in the film. They said it was just a great party. We had a great time, lots of fun.
I bet it was.
It's
that classic saying, though, isn't it? That thing of like, if you're having a good time on set, it often doesn't translate to being a good time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I imagine they had a great time. I'm glad they did.
Yeah, somebody had to have a good time making it because it's not that great.
Nobody had a good time watching it.
No, we didn't. But yes, I think that's everything I wanted to say in that regard. I'm just gonna have a look at the Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm gonna do this for this one because for this format, I don't usually do it, but I think it's interesting to see where the divide is. So out of 24 reviews, it's got 42%. So that is a rotten rating.
Generous.
That is generous, I think. And then 48% audience score. So it's not too dissimilar and that's 10,000 people's ratings.
But that means 5,000 people think this is good.
Yeah.
My God.
That's maths. That's the maths of 1941. Do you think the title is good? I think it's a confusing title. I think you could confuse what this is about. Like if you went, I want to watch a Spielberg movie called 1941. I went, oh yeah, I love Spielberg. He does, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, Raiders. I go, oh yeah, that sounds great. And then you see this.
It doesn't provide you with the tone at all. No, because there was 1917, wasn't it? Sam Mendes, but that's uber serious and
And that comes across in the marketing as well. It doesn't necessarily say it's if you watch that initial trailer, it's just like Steven Spielberg, 1941. That's kind of it. It's not like
maybe whoever was in charge of marketing knew it wasn't funny.
Probably, and they were like, how do we sell this?
Right. I mean, imagine having that job. No thanks.
They get paid a lot, marketers, but they do have a hard job of it. We'll put it that way. But yeah, so this is some of the reviews very shortly as well on there. David Musset of Real Film Reviews says a somewhat interminable misfire. 1 out of 4. That's a rotten review. Danielle Salzman of Salzy's at the Movies. Led by some of the biggest names in comedy at the time, 1941 is Steven Spielberg's most underrated film of all time. Of all time. I like Temple of Doom. I think that's pretty underrated, but again, I know it has its problems.
Compared to this, Temple of Doom is a masterpiece.
Absolute masterpiece. Here's another review from Emmanuel Levy from emmanuellevy.com. This wannabe satire of World War II is the first one of the few commercial flops, not commercial flops, really, in Spielberg's otherwise distinguished and popular output.
I'm not sure it's a satire either, if I'm honest.
No, I'd say it's closer to probably a parody, screwball comedy thing.
I don't think it's trying. No. I don't think it's even trying to do anything smart.
It's not clever. It's definitely not. No. It's not clever enough for a satire. It is not even. It isn't even RoboCop of satires. No, and that's pretty on the nose for me. Robert Gonsalves of eCritic.com says, "I love 1941. I don't apologize to you or my fellow critics, or even Spielberg for that. So I don't know why that reminds me of an Angry Andy
Yeah,
reviews.
sure.
I love 1941. I don't apologise to you or my fellow critics or even Spielberg.
I like it.
He doesn't want to apologise to Spielberg for liking it. You can like my movies. It's fine. I like this movie. No, I don't want to apologise for liking it.
I wonder if a lot of this is what you said right back at the start, bring it full circle, as Spielberg likes the circles, is that people who watched this when they were kids. Yeah. And as a kid, I can see you finding some of this funny. I can probably see that.
Oh, yeah.
And perhaps bringing that nostalgia with you and like not being willing to watch it with an adult critical eye. I can see that you might still say it's good.
Yeah, I think kids could get something out of it, but then there's a lot of racism in it.
Yes, yeah, we don't want to take the views out of it.
Yeah, we don't want to take those views, but you can watch Kelso running after his own plane and stuff. That's fine.
Yeah, I think I can see kids finding that shit.
They go, haha, he's a silly man and he's running after the plane.
Yeah,
I can see that. Let's see what else we got. Unworkable farce, says Ian Freer of Empire Magazine. It may be, but is also blessed with the buzz of brilliance. Yeah, I don't know about you, Empire. Not sure about that one. Let's read one more and then we'll go. It may possibly be that Mr. Spielberg has chosen gigantic size and unlimited quantity as his comedy method in the awareness that he has no gift whatsoever. He has no gift whatsoever for small-scale comic conceits. So I actually think that's... Yeah, I think it's spot on. I'll repeat that as well. It may possibly be that Mr. Spielberg has chosen gigantic size and unlimited quantity as his comedy method in the awareness that he has no gift whatsoever for small-scale comic conceits.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to cover it up by going big. Yeah, I like that.
That was by Vincent Canby, who's a famous reviewer from New York Times. So I believe that was probably at the time the film came out, I believe.
Yeah.
He also did a scathing review of Heaven's Gate around the time as well, similar time. Again, talking about those auteurs that auteur era. So, big question is that we may have already answered a little bit, is did Steven Spielberg go in the wrong direction with 1941?
Well, I mean, the answer is yes, but you put out there that really fascinating insight of like, yes, but it turned out to be a good thing. So yes, but no. Yes and no.
So there's no definitive answer. There is absolutely no definitive answer, and I don't really like having definitive answers in the podcast anyway. I like having everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got a choice, and we particularly did not care for this film, and there are other people absolutely love this and think it's amazing, and again, fair play to them. But yeah, I think I agree with myself and you in my earlier statement. I think this needed to happen for him to ascend. Like, this could have killed his career easy. This could have easily killed his career. He could have gone nowhere. Like Michael Cimino in Heaven's Gate, he went absolutely spiraled after Heaven's Gate and everything. But you know what? Fair play to old Spielberg. He pulled up his bootstraps. He went, yep, I can bounce back. I know what I'm doing. I know what I've done wrong. I'll go back to what I know best. And again, he is funny. He knows how to do comedy, but not this type of comedy. Not without, a decent protagonist. And again, there's none of those classic techniques we were talking about, like the zoom.
Not at all. It's unrecognisably a Spielberg movie. There's nothing about this that's a Spielberg movie at all.
Nothing at all. I know Milius was supposed to direct it initially, but he was given his pet project, which I think was a surfer film, I think. I could be wrong.
Oh, it's not Big Wednesday, is it? No.
It might be. Yeah, I think it might be Big Wednesday. I could be wrong. Anyway.
He's definitely a big surfer, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a big surf dude. But yeah, I think so too. So yes and no. But please tell us if we're wrong. Leave it in the comments.
I'd be fascinated to hear a really well-reasoned, argued,
absolutely,
positive outlook on this. I'd love to see what they have to say.
Well, in fact, I've got some listener comments, and I've got one coming up. Like you said, I would like a real deep dive on why.
I would.
An excellent film, and why the comedy works, and why we're wrong, why we are wrong. So speaking of listener comments and speaking of Angry Andy reviews, on Twitter at Andy_reviews. Check out his constant collaborator of mine. I've been on his show and he's been on mine. Great YouTube reviewer. He's currently reviewing things from Aldi as a change. As a change of pace, which I actually thought was one of his better reviews. I quite enjoyed him trying to put together a microwavable burger from Aldi. So go and check that one out. So Angry Andy says, it's an unwieldy mess of too much going on. The comedy would work if it wasn't telegraphed and if the satire was there fully. Instead, there's too many characters bumbling around. Should have been a drama, but this film clearly taught Spielberg that less is more, for a time anyway.
I mean, so we just wasted 90 minutes. We could have just read out Andy's...
God damn it, Andy. Thanks. Done it again. Ruined it again. But it's all the stuff we talked about. It's all the stuff, he knows his films, he absolutely... Not far from what bloody Kubrick said, in fact. There's a lot of stuff going on, the telegraphing, the bumbling. And again, Spielberg learned his lesson, so we'll find out. So we're going to go over to Instagram now. So I've got a new follower. I think he's quite recent. He's called Xander. A name you like, I'm sure. 6981, and he says, "I always really liked 1941. It's a very different Spielberg movie, but has a manic energy I find entertaining. It helps to watch the longer director's cut. Does it?" Which comes in at roughly 2.5 hours. I can tell you it does because I felt every second. Again, we respect your opinion, but which is an insane runtime for a comedy. I agree. It also first sets up what would be the recurring themes in the future of movies for Spielberg. World War II, the love of aviation, the big musical number at a dance hall. That's it. That's his whole comment. So again, there is merit to this film not being that good. Interesting
that, even that positive review is kind of putting a positive spin on some of the things that perhaps we picked out as being not as being negative, but we picked out and said it taught him those lessons, but it was a really hard lesson to learn. But I like the fact that he's sort of giving it that positive spin. That's nice.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to just slag off movies and say they're awful and the shit and stuff. I don't like doing that. I try and avoid it when I can. And again, I will say this about it. You don't get comedy epics.
Sure.
You just don't get them. They don't happen anymore. Maybe this is the reason why, maybe not. I don't know. But you don't get these big ensemble. I think the closest thing you probably get is stuff like, I don't know, like Valentine's Day and New Year's Day and stuff with all the stars in it. Yeah. And it's like this sappy rom-com stuff. Again, not really my bag, even though I've seen them to my, dread and regret. They've got these big names, big stars, headline, big parts, but just in this poor...
Is it like... Ripped. I've never seen it, but like Movie 44, is that what it's called? That's got all that.
Yeah, again, that's a collection of sketches with a lot of people that signed on to do something very, very shit. But I've not seen that, and that's not one that's going to be on my my watch list for the podcast, especially not.
I'm busy that day, sorry.
I'll just get Andy to watch some more shit films. Punish him even more. What a discussion! I have to say that was a lot of fun. And I think I've come out better and a better human being for having shared this experience with you. We've been in the trenches, quite literally in the trenches.
We have.
This was a big one.
Much like Spielberg, we've come out better people the other side, yeah?
I like to think so. And I have a new appreciation for this film and understanding that has, I think, enforced and inferred on Spielberg's greatest success that's come after. So, we're glad. In a way, we're glad this film got made. I think, in a sense,
absolutely. I think if he feels that way, and we can see that there were some lessons learned, and it helped him become the filmmaker he became, then definitely, I'm glad, because so many of his works are important to me as a person and to society in general, in terms of like filmmaking and what films mean to people. You can list off, I don't know how many of his films, which would be somebody's favorite film of all time.
Easy.
A lot of his movies will be in people's top 10, top 5.
Raiders, like you said, Saving Private Ryan.
Jurassic Park.
You know, there's lesser ones in that pantheon, but I think as directors go, as big name directors go, he's got a good pedigree, his good selection. You know, you can just go, yeah, and you know it's Spielberg. You can recognize, even if you don't know his name, even if you don't know who's behind the camera, what's going on, you can feel his touch and his style on
something like Hook, which is, you know, arguably a lesser Spielberg movie, and I mean that in terms of like the direction of it, like that is a lesser Spielberg movie in terms of like it's not instantly familiar as being his, but still has enough about it that it's clearly a Spielberg movie.
He does sometimes pick some great child actors in a lot of these films. You know, Elliot and you know, Short Round in Temple of Doom.
Absolutely,
I think he's great. I think Hook, there was a bit of a misfire with the young girl that he cast as Peter's daughter, but you know, fair play to her. I can't criticize you know, child actors, but it was, that particular part of that particular film didn't really work for me. I do like Hook. I you know, arguably love Hook in some respects, but again, I'd agree that it's not one of the better Spielbergian films. Great discussion, and I hope a lot of people got a lot out of it, and a deeper appreciation for Mr. Spielberg and his work. I think I might even go watch West Side Story and see what that's like. Check that out. I wouldn't have released it the same day as Spider-Man, which they did, but that's not my decision to make. Disney Studios, Disney Plus, or whoever's in charge these days of all that content. But there you go. So Jack, you are the master podcaster, blaster, not a disaster. No, absolutely not. It does right. The film was, but not you. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the moment, where people can find you, what podcasts you're doing, what kind of topic, maybe what's coming up, what have we got to look forward to as well, and any social media links and stuff that you want to put out there if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, thank you, good sir. So I'm part of the Comics in Motion family, which you are now officially inducted into. Which is good. Great news. You were already, you know, like kind of you were part of the extended family, but now like we've drawn you into the inner circle, which is great.
I'm on the little Discord and probably on it too much, if anything.
Not at all. And that's a wonderful place to be. You know, we've often talked about this idea, you know, the darkness of the internet and social media, but if you find that right corner, it's only brightness, and that's how I feel about that group of people. And how, you know, we already had our own established relationship, but now some of those worlds are combining together, which is lovely. So I'm part of that lovely network and have a couple of shows which I'm regularly on. I'm on Seasons Greetings and Indie Comic Spotlight with the wonderful Tony Farina. One looking at TV series from season 1 through to the end. Surprisingly, that one's called Seasons Greetings. And one looking at comics not from the big two, from Marvel or DC. Surprisingly, that's called Indie Comic Spotlight. So that's great, and it just means, you know, same as yourself, it means I get to have a regular chat with somebody that I'm good friends with, and we just get to enjoy the things we enjoy and talking about them.
Absolutely. I've been enjoying your Comics in Motion book club as well today.
So recently hosted Comics in Motion. Yeah, Viva and Desiat hosted that. So that's the wonderful thing about Comics in Motion as a place, is that you get drawn into all these different places. Yourself, you've been on 2 Book of Boba Fett, so I've been on 1. Because we're an extended family, we just help each other out whenever they need somebody to jump in. So yeah, it's absolutely wonderful in that way.
Absolutely. I couldn't recommend it enough. If you're not part of it, if you want to be part of it, get stuck in, get socializing with us on the social medias. When Dave said, I said it on the last podcast, when Dave said, "Oh, you're part of the extended family," that felt really nice and felt really good. And you know, I spoke on Andy's behalf because he speaks enough. But yeah, it's really such a genuinely good feeling, and it's trustworthy as well. Like, I've given people passwords to stuff, to streaming services and other stuff, and I'm like, I wouldn't give this to some of the people I know in person. You know, I'm comfortable. I trust them enough to give stuff like that out and know that it's going to be used wisely. I think I've given you a couple of streaming passwords and stuff. I'm like, yeah, go crazy, go watch Demons. You know, go have some fun. You know, I'm more than happy to do that because again, I'd like just genuine love and appreciation for all the people on there. They're great. All of them are good.
They are, and I think it's a really open community, which is lovely because this is why it keeps expanding, right? You know, it started off for me. I went on Tony's show once to talk about Firefly comics, and then 18 months later or something like that now, here we are, you know, every week pretty much on somebody's podcast doing something so there's always opportunity for everybody, and we keep growing the family and keep including more and more people, and also like fresh new voices on podcasts.
Absolutely, yeah.
To hear.
Yeah, I love listening to like Ria's show and hearing all the kind of stuff she's talking about is amazing, and I think there should be way more of that. Wherever we can get it, and the fact that Comics in Motion has given her that platform to do that and to say that, and to have her views on Margaret Thatcher as well. That she's got a platform, finally got a platform for that. Is amazing.
She's got a view on Margaret Thatcher. I never realised.
It's like I just love the on the V for Vendetta podcast. She's like, I fucking hate her, fucking bitch, fuck her hard. She's a cunt. I don't like Margaret Thatcher. That was my favourite bit. I don't know if you know that, but I don't like her. That was more funny than
comedy
all of that.
Timing.
Yes, I was about to say. That was it. She nailed it. It's just that little gap. Was like, I don't like Margaret Thatcher. Better than any of the timing in this film we just talked about.
Absolutely.
All of it. But yeah, great stuff. But yes, social media handles. Anything you want to pop out there?
Yeah. I am Jackson Musings. That's JACS. That's where you'll find me as a person, and then where I'm as my collective is a pop gorilla. So you can also find and please listen to the pop gorillas. That's gorilla as in like enemy
military
soldiers rather than the monkey.
Yeah.
Again, probably a better joke than anything that was in 1941. So yeah, find me in those two places.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not into the long form podcast, Pop Gorillas is for you. No spoilers, and in less time than it takes to listen to a song.
That's it. That's the tagline. You know
Boom.
it.
I know it off by heart. Better than my own stuff. Can't even remember my own script. But yes, you can find me. So it's at Dan_Bores on Twitter. It is Spider Dan Secret Bores on Instagram, and it's at Secret Balls on Facebook. So do all the usual stuff, like, share, subscribe, comment, etc. Don't forget to use the hashtag #PrepareForPrattle when you interact with us. And for everything else you need to know about the podcast, swing over to SpiderDanandtheSecretBalls.com on the World Wide Web. I'd like to also thank my patrons on Patreon. I am Jack's Musings. Bam, he's on the show. That's what you get for Patreon. Get on the show. Forget all the content I'm not delivering. Get on the show. It's fine. It's good. Paul Meller, Max Byrne, Tony Farina, Scott Hodgson, Simon Cottam. Thank you for your continuing donations. It is very much appreciated and helps Prattle World keep on turning. And if you ever find yourself in a position to help the podcast, please consider it. And I hope you've enjoyed this new format, something we've tried out and I've been planning for a very long time. And I know you've been clamoring for it, Jack, and reminding me that I should fucking get on with it. I was like, I just wanted to find the right topic, the right person, and I think I did. I think we found the perfect starting point. So I hope to do a few more of these with maybe yourself or Andy or whoever I can find that wants to talk about a specific director and what they do.
I'm here for it all.
Amazing. Well, I think we will definitely do another one of these again in the near future. So yes, that has been great. Thank you again, Jack. Brilliant. Join us on the Comics in Motion. Join the family. Get involved. Get stuck in. Listen more. Check out all of my guests, whatever they do. Just go and do. If you go on my website, I've got all my guest spots with anybody that I've ever done something elsewhere. So please go subscribe, like, and all that. Especially Comics in Motion specifically, and all the kind of tapering off and all the arms and third and fourth arms of Comics in Motion. If you find them somewhere, get on it. Get listening, because it's all fucking great stuff. But thank you very much, guys. This has been an amazing discussion. I hope you got a lot out of it too. Bye-bye, and I'll see you in February. And it's going to be the next one is our feminist discussion with Angry Andy's less angry half, Natalie. And we're going to be talking feminism and Disney villains and/or antagonists.
Lovely.
Ooh, good stuff. It's going to be an interesting discussion. More interesting than this? You decide. It's variety.
Couldn't possibly be.
No, I can't top it. Sorry, Natalie. Can't work. We'll find out. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.